My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Men. And this is a movie directed by Alex Garland, and he's a director I think is really talented. I thought Ex Machina was a really good movie. I thought Annihilation was great up until the end. And even though it's not official, everything indicates that he was really the director behind Dredd. And that is one of the best, most underrated superhero movies of the past decade. So I should have been excited for this movie, but the truth is I wasn't, and it's all because of the title. I knew exactly what kind of movie this was going to be before I saw it. It was going to be a movie that all men are evil, it's going to criticize toxic masculinity, and I was just like, I don't want to see a movie like this, but I'll give it a shot, and it turns out I was right. And look, movies that deal with this kind of subject matter can be really good. I thought Midsommar from a few years ago was a really effective and great movie that I heavily enjoyed. I thought The Invisible Man was a really tense, frightening, and just really well written and acted movie that I heavily enjoyed. So you can do it. You can handle this kind of subject matter with depth, nuance, and be entertaining. But this movie isn't that. This movie just beats you over the head with its ideas, and it's not even remotely subtle. Even when you think the movie is done telling you the exact same idea it's been telling you the entire movie, it continues to do it some more. And you're just like, oh my goodness, like, does this movie have anything else up its sleeve? And the answer is no. All the men characters in this movie are not characters. They're just merely the idea of men are mean, and that's it. They don't have any depth behind them, they are literally just that idea. So by doing that, you're putting the message and the idea of this movie ahead of the story and characters. And that's why this movie failed. But the main character, of course, who's a woman, does have depth and nuance behind her. The movie makes you sympathize with her the entire movie. And of course, there's a nice female cop and her best female friend. They're all great, but all the men are just evil. And yes, you can look at movies, lots of them, through that lens. And I try not to. But this movie, clear intention is to do exactly that. So I have to criticize this movie for doing that, because that is the entire point of this movie. And it borders on self-parody in moments. Like there's one scene where the main character is talking to a priest, and just the way the conversation goes, I thought it was hilarious. It was so comedically over the top of just being like, look how awful of a man this one is. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, you gotta be kidding me. And there's also this one scene early on where I think the movie is trying to be scary, like The Strangers, where the woman's just walking around her house and you can see the person in the background just standing there. And when you watch The Strangers, that's a really effective, chilling moment. And I think the movie was going for something like that here, with this naked man standing outside her house, but it's actually like just not scary remotely, and the audience was laughing. I don't think that's the reaction the filmmaker intended. This movie borders on self-parody so often because of just how over the top and unsubtle it is. And everything you need to know about this movie, you know within the first 15 minutes, and the movie never really progresses from that point forward. It just repeats the same beats over and over again. Like if this was a 15-minute long short film, it would still be bad, but at least it would be 15 minutes and you could get everything that you could get out of this feature-length movie in that 15-minute long short film. Like this movie is only an hour and 40 minutes, and I love the fact that it's that short, but at the same time, this movie felt so much longer. Like, I could have sworn by the end of this movie that I was sitting there for like over 2 hours. I kept checking my Fitbit. I'm like, is this going to end anytime soon? There's actually a point where I'm just like, okay, it seems like the character's getting away. I think the movie's wrapping up. This is great. Oh, okay. Nope, I have to keep watching this. And this movie lacks any bit of a hook. I always say that a movie needs a hook. Something early on to just grab your attention immediately so you're invested in the rest of this movie. And this movie doesn't have one. I was just watching it at the beginning and I'm just like, oh, is that supposed to be the tragic event that gets me invested in the story? Because it did not do its job. Without giving too much away, it involves this relationship and you only see it in these two quick moments. And the movie feels very manipulative in how it's looking at this relationship because you only see it in two moments, so you don't have an understanding of who each person is, how this relationship is. But the movie also tells you that if you dare question the relationship and how it got to that point, then you're the problem. And I think that's a very manipulative way to go about this movie. Also, this movie does have some A24 weirdness to it. I know some people were going nuts being like, oh my goodness, the body horror in this movie is so extreme. And there's definitely some body horror present, but I don't really think it was all that bad. There is this one cool moment involving someone's arm, and I loved seeing the after effects of that. But then there's another scene closer to the end, and something happens, I'm like, okay, that's gross, whatever. But then the scene keeps going on and on and on, and I'm just like, this is just ridiculous. The scene is so dragged out for an unbelievable length of time that it just gets to the point of self-parody once again. Also, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this about the movie up until now, but I did find this movie to be incredibly slow and boring. Like I said, it definitely drags, but my goodness, this movie just never had my interest. I was never entertained while watching this movie. I was just waiting for it to be over the entire time. But to give some credit where it's due, this movie does have some good aspects of it. It is very well shot, especially one scene where the main character is walking down a tunnel. The movie's also got some good sound. There's one scene where there's a few windows breaking and a few knocks, and you just can, it sounds like it's coming from the other side of the house, so that was really well done. And the performances are pretty decent. Jessie Buckley I really liked in Wild Wars and I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and she's fine in this movie. It's not a great performance, but she carries it well enough. And Warwick Neal, I don't want to give too much away about his performance, but what I'll say is that some things that he's going for here worked better for me than others. I'll word it like that. But this is not a movie I enjoyed. I'm starting to feel like A24 is just getting really formulaic in their own ways. Like if you watch an A24 movie, you know exactly what to expect. And don't get me wrong, I love some A24 movies. I thought Good Time was great. I thought The Witch is excellent. The Killing of a Sacred Deer is great. There's lots of great movies that they've made, but there's a certain approach to their movies that I feel like is making them very predictable. And anytime I watch an A24 movie now, I'm just like, I feel like I've seen this kind of movie before. And that's the case here, but it's also one of the worst A24 movies. This movie I did not like at all. Alex Garland has talent. I just don't know what he's doing here. This movie doesn't have an ounce of depth or nuance. It beats you over the head with its ideas, and the ideas aren't even explored in interesting ways. The characters are terribly written. The movie has no hook. It's incredibly slow, boring, and just feels much longer than it is. And just how overboard it goes in the last act and how long some scenes drag on for is just absolutely absurd. This movie borders on the line of self-parody so many times that I'm not even sure if it's intentional or not, but it definitely doesn't come across that way. So I'm going to go ahead and give Men 2 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Men? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.